Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and you immediately realize you've stepped into an absolute nightmare scenario.
Oh, yeah. The kind that keeps defense experts awake at night.
Exactly. Like you reach over to flip the light switch by your bed and nothing happens.
Yeah.
So you check your phone to see if there's, a local outage or something, but there's just no signal.
Completely dead.
Yeah. And then you walk outside and your neighborhood is just eerily quiet. The traffic lights are entirely dark. Cars are already gridlocked everywhere.
Total chaos.
And slowly, through battery-powered radios, the actual news trickles in. The entire regional electricity grid has collapsed.
Wow.
Hospitals are suddenly running on backup emergency generators, but they only have fuel for maybe 48 hours. The national railway systems, which rely on digital signals, are completely frozen.
It's just completely paralyzed.
Right. Banks can't process a single transaction. Your debit cards are basically just useless pieces of plastic at this point.
Yeah, even military communications are experiencing these unexplained cascading failures.
Exactly. And here is the truly terrifying part of this whole scenario. You look up, and there are no enemy jets in the sky.
No tanks rolling across the border.
Right. There isn't a single foreign soldier on your soil. The attack that crippled your country came entirely, 100%, through computer code.
And, that specific scenario, it is not science fiction anymore. It is the baseline reality of modern conflict that defense departments worldwide are desperately preparing for.
Which brings us to the mission of our deep dive today. We are unpacking what might genuinely be the most crucial legal question of the 21st century.
Which is, when exactly does a digital hack cross the line and become an actual act of war?
Exactly. And to truly wrap your head around this, from what we're looking at in today's sources, we need a complete paradigm shift in how you usually think about cybersecurity.
Yeah, because generally we treat this as a purely IT problem, right? We talk about firewalls, stopping ransomware, securing endpoints, updating passwords.
Like, don't click the phishing link.
Exactly. But that is only a fraction of the picture. When a cyber operation is launched by one nation against another, it entirely sheds that label of a tech issue.
It becomes something else entirely.
Right. It transforms into this massive, tangled international legal puzzle. The crucial questions for governments aren't just about compromised networks anymore.
Right. They have to ask bigger questions.
Yeah, they have to ask, was state sovereignty violated? Was force actually used? And ultimately, who is legally responsible?
Okay, so let's unpack this. Because to figure out if a digital attack is a war, we first have to look way past the catch-all word we use every single day, which is hack.
Right. We throw that word around for everything.
We really do. From a teenager guessing a celebrity's password to a state-sponsored takedown of a power grid, it's all just a hack.
Yeah, but legally that's a huge problem.
It is, because equating a financial cyber heist to a military cyber siege is, well, it's like equating a street pickpocket to an invading army, just because they both use their hands to take something.
Oh, that pickpocket versus the army analogy is a vital distinction here. I mean, think about it.
Right.
A criminal syndicate stealing funds from a central bank, an intelligence agency silently copying diplomatic files, and a military unit actively destroying a nation's electricity grid. Technically, they might all be deploying malware.
The code might even look identical.
Exactly. But legally and strategically, they exist in completely different universes.
So we have to figure out which universe we are in. And from what I'm seeing in the sources, this means dusting off the actual rulebook governing nations.
Right, the United Nations Charter.
Yeah, the UN Charter. Now, my first thought reading this was, wait, the UN Charter was written in 1945.
Very true.
It was built for a world of physical armies, navies, the aftermath of World War II. I mean, it predates the internet by decades.
Oh, absolutely.
So how can a document that old regulate a modern cyber command?
Well, the genius of the UN Charter is that it regulates state conduct, not merely specific weapons. Yeah, the drafters obviously couldn't predict malware, but they thoroughly understood state aggression. It doesn't actually matter if you use a battleship, a fighter jet, or a line of malicious code.
There is no legal vacuum in cyberspace.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just because the weapon is invisible and travels through fiber optic cables doesn't mean it's the Wild West where no rules apply.
So how does that actually work in the text of the Charter?
So Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the Charter prohibits the use of force against another state. And then Article 51 allows for the inherent right of self-defense if an armed attack occurs.
Okay, so force an armed attack.
Right. The international community fundamentally agrees these rules absolutely apply to cyberspace. But the massive complication is that not every hack triggers these rules.
So not every cyber operation automatically creates a right of military retaliation.
Precisely.
So if the weapon itself doesn't matter, international courts must just be measuring the financial damage, right? Like the dollar amount.
You would think so.
I mean, if a nation deletes the central banking records of a rival and costs them $500 billion, surely that crosses the line into an act of war.
It sounds logical, but the law actually strips away the digital illusion and the financial calculus entirely.
Really? So what do they look at?
It looks purely at the physical wreckage left behind. The core metric in international law is a phrase you will hear constantly in this space: scale and effects.
Scale and effects.
Yeah. The legal community looks at the operation and evaluates what the cyber attack actually accomplished in the real physical world.
So the consequences dictate the rules.
Exactly.
If the digital method is identical, but say one operation just copies blueprints, while the other causes a chemical plant's safety valves to fail and explode.
The law treats them completely differently based on that physical outcome.
Wow. That invisible legal line is everything. And to find that line, we have to look at a vital distinction in international law that you really need to know.
Right, and it's a tricky one.
Yeah, the sources emphasize that a use of force is not necessarily the same thing as an armed attack.
Which is wild, because to anyone walking down the street, those sound like perfect synonyms.
Right. If you use force against me, you're attacking me.
Exactly. But legally, the gap between those two concepts is vast, and it dictates whether a country can legally start a shooting war.
Okay, break that down for us.
So remember Article 51, the rule that allows a country to use military self-defense.
Yeah.
That only applies in response to an armed attack. A disruptive hack, say, temporarily taking a government website offline, might be illegal. It might even be classified as an unlawful use of force.
But it's not an armed attack.
Right. To cross that severe threshold into an armed attack, the consequences of the hack generally must mirror the destruction of conventional warfare.
Meaning it has to break things or hurt people on a massive scale.
Exactly.
Let's ground this in some of the really terrifying scenarios outlined in our sources.
Please do.
Okay, imagine a cyber operation that infiltrates a nuclear power facility, right? It bypasses the safety overrides, disables the cooling systems, and causes a catastrophic meltdown.
Horrifying thought, yeah.
Or consider a hack that deliberately blinds a civilian air defense system. It alters the radar feeds so the commercial planes actually crash into each other.
Right.
Or even malware that completely knocks out a military command network at the exact moment a conventional physical invasion begins.
What's fascinating and terrifying here is that in all of those cases, the delivery mechanism was completely digital, but the consequences were fiercely physical.
Right. So calling any of those scenarios just a computer attack is legally and strategically false.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly dangerous to downplay it like that.
So if a hack causes death, serious injury, or massive physical destruction of critical infrastructure, you are knocking on the door of an armed attack.
Yes.
And I assume that's the moment a nation is legally justified in launching actual missiles in retaliation.
Well, the justification might be there in theory, but the actual retaliation hits an immediate, massive hurdle.
Oh, what kind of hurdle?
If your nation suffers an armed attack via code, and you want to order a retaliatory strike, perhaps bombing the intelligence facility where the hackers work, you have to know with absolute legal certainty who pulled the digital trigger.
Which brings us to the attribution puzzle.
The biggest headache in cyber warfare.
And let me play devil's advocate here, because I think the public often gets really frustrated by this.
Go for it.
In a normal war, you look up, you see the enemy jet's markings, you track its flight path on radar from its home base, you know exactly whose military is bombing.
You're right, it's fairly obvious.
So in cyber, isn't finding the IP address or tracing the compromised server enough? I mean, if the attack clearly originated from a server in country X, can't we just fire back at country X?
I know, it is incredibly tempting to think that way, but legally it is a huge trap.
A trap?
Yeah, we have to completely separate technical attribution from legal attribution.
Okay, how so?
Think of it like prosecuting a mafia boss. Catching the hitman, meaning finding the server that actually delivered the code, is relatively easy.
Sure.
But finding the paper trail that proves the mob boss, meaning the hostile state, actually ordered the hit, that is incredibly difficult.
Especially because hackers are actively trying to frame other people.
Right.
Right? The sources talk about these digital false flags.
Oh, constantly.
They don't just draw a straight line from their laptop to your power grid. They route the malicious traffic through servers in, like, 5 different countries.
Yep.
They use criminal proxy groups to do the dirty work so they can deny it.
And they go even further than that. Advanced persistent threat groups will deliberately plant false technical indicators.
Like what?
Like they will compile their malware during the working hours of a completely different time zone.
Oh, wow.
Or they'll leave comments in the code written in a specific foreign language purely to frame another nation.
That is so devious.
It really is. So finding the computer that the attack originated from absolutely does not prove that the government of that country ordered it.
So how do intelligence agencies actually prove state involvement to a level that satisfies international law? Do they, like, need a signed confession?
Basically. I mean, they need evidence that holds up to intense international scrutiny.
Right.
You have to prove the act was conducted by an official state organ or by an actor operating under explicit state direction and control.
Or what else?
Or you need proof that the state later openly acknowledged and adopted the attack as its own.
That seems almost impossible to get.
It's hard. In operational reality, this means signal intelligence agencies aren't just looking at the code itself.
What are they looking at then?
They are intercepting communications between proxy hacker groups and military intelligence officers. They are following complex cryptocurrency payments back to state-owned wallets.
Ah, following the money.
Exactly. They are looking at the human intelligence surrounding the entire operation.
Which really shows that cyber attribution isn't just a tech problem for the IT department.
Not at all.
It's fundamentally a legal problem. You need an airtight evidentiary case before you can launch a counterstrike, or else you become the aggressor under international law.
Exactly. And if that wasn't complicated enough, we have to ask, what happens if a foreign adversary doesn't pull the trigger at all?
What do you mean?
What if they just quietly sit inside your systems?
Here's where it gets really interesting. And honestly, this is the area of the sources that gave me genuine anxiety.
Yeah, the gray zones.
The gray zones. Persistent access.
Yeah.
Let's say a foreign state manages to penetrate your highly classified military network.
Yeah.
Or maybe the network controlling your national water supply.
Okay.
They don't break anything. They don't delete any files or shut off any valves. They just lurk there for years.
Just waiting.
Right. But they have the absolute capability to shut your entire country down at the push of a button.
It's terrifying.
It feels like finding out a foreign soldier has been sleeping in your attic for 3 years, fully armed, just waiting for a radio call. Has an armed attack already happened simply by them being there?
Well, the short answer under international law is no.
Really?
Yeah. The existence of a capability is not the same as the actual use of that capability.
But they are right there in the system.
I know, but states have been infiltrating each other's secrets since the dawn of civilization. The internet just changed the speed and scale of that infiltration.
So spying, basically.
Exactly. Cyber espionage, sneaking in, copying industrial secrets, mapping network vulnerabilities, reading diplomatic cables without destroying the network. That is not automatically cyber warfare.
Even if they are sitting inside the power grid just waiting, the tension of that is unbelievable. It feels like a massive violation of borders.
The tension is very real, because if that latent capability is suddenly activated during a political crisis, the situation shifts from espionage to warfare instantly. But until they pull that trigger, we're navigating the murky waters of sovereignty and non-intervention rather than armed conflict.
Which opens up this massive debate about digital borders that our sources highlight.
A huge debate.
Can a hacker, sitting at a keyboard thousands of miles away, violate a country's sovereignty without a single physical troop ever crossing a geographical border?
It's a great question.
Because cyberspace obviously does not respect geography. A server in one country literally controls a dam in another.
Right. And this ties directly into the principle of non-intervention.
Okay, unpack that.
International law raises massive red flags when a cyber operation is used to coercively interfere with another state's core sovereign functions.
Give me an example of what coercive interference looks like in practice.
Think about hacking an electoral process to change vote tallies, or paralyzing a political institution's ability to govern during a domestic crisis.
Oh, wow. So messing with the foundation of the state.
Exactly. Even if it doesn't cross the line into the physical destruction of an armed attack, the law doesn't just throw its hands up.
Right.
There are thresholds below the level of full-scale war where a state's actions are deeply illegal and justify severe countermeasures.
Like what kind of countermeasures?
Things like sweeping economic sanctions or even retaliatory hacks.
Okay, so let's shift our focus to a totally different context.
Yeah.
If the lines are this blurry in peacetime, what happens when a physical armed conflict is already underway?
Actual wartime.
Yeah, say tanks are actively rolling across a border, missiles are flying, a war has officially begun. Do cyber weapons just get a free pass on the battlefield?
The assumption is often that once war breaks out, the gloves come off entirely. But international humanitarian law, or IHL, steps in here.
So the rules still apply.
Exactly. The digital nature of a weapon does not magically erase the rules of war.
So what does this all mean for civilian infrastructure? I'm looking at the core concepts here from the sources. Distinction, proportionality, military necessity, and humanity.
Those are the big four, yeah.
But how does that actually work with computer code? Like if you are at war and you want to target an enemy's military network with a devastating piece of malware, but that military network shares the same power grid as the civilian hospital.
Yeah, a very common scenario.
Right. How does a piece of malicious code practice distinction?
It actually has to be built into the code itself.
Wait, really?
Yes. A state must engineer its digital weapon to strictly target military objectives. For instance, the malware might be programmed to check its environment before executing.
How so?
It looks for a specific military operating system or a designated IP range. If it realizes it has accidentally infected a civilian hospital server, the code must be programmed to harmlessly delete itself.
It has to have an abort mechanism.
It must. And then there's the principle of proportionality.
Right, weighing the costs.
Exactly. Military commanders have to run a strict legal calculation before the code is ever launched. If taking out that military communications node will also unavoidably knock out the power to the hospital.
Potentially killing patients on ventilators.
Right. They have to weigh that military advantage against the civilian harm. If the civilian harm is excessive, the strike is straightforwardly illegal under international law.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this really highlights the deeply interconnected nature of modern life.
Completely.
Telecommunications, water purification, healthcare, banking, transportation, they all run on the exact same digital backbone as the military.
They do.
So a malware strike that is wildly reckless, that spreads uncontrollably beyond the military target and shuts down life-saving civilian infrastructure is a war crime.
Unquestionably.
You cannot defend yourself at The Hague by saying, well, it was just code. We didn't know where it would spread.
Right. The humanitarian consequences are all that matter, which is why legal scholars are debating whether the current rules are enough.
And given this incredibly tangled interconnected infrastructure, proxy criminal hackers, digital false flags, and laws written before the microchip was even invented, it begs a massive question.
Let's hear it.
Is the current international rulebook fundamentally broken? Do we need a completely new Cyber Geneva Convention?
That is actually one of the fiercest debates happening in international law today.
I can imagine.
Some experts argue we desperately need a brand new dedicated treaty for cyber warfare to explicitly define what infrastructure is universally off limits.
Like declaring hospitals and electoral systems completely untouchable.
Exactly. And to define exactly what counts as a digital armed attack.
In this context, the sources repeatedly mention the Talon Manual.
Ah, yeah.
The Talon Manual.
And we should clarify what that is because it gets thrown around in the news as if it's the absolute law of the land.
It does get misrepresented a lot.
Yeah. So the Talon Manual is a massive, incredibly detailed analysis by leading legal experts trying to apply existing international law to cyberspace. But it is vital to understand that it is not binding international law.
That distinction is so crucial. You cannot create international law just by putting a group of brilliant experts in a room and having them write a comprehensive manual.
Actual law requires state practice.
How does state practice actually work to solidify these rules?
It requires nations to publicly articulate their legal positions and then act on them consistently over time.
So they have to walk the walk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A country has to stand up and publicly say, we consider hacking a hospital to be a violation of international law. And then they have to demonstrate they follow that rule and sanction others who break it.
Right.
It requires diplomacy, international agreements, and a critical mass of nations actually accepting those rules as legally binding upon themselves.
To bring these abstract legal concepts down to earth, the sources highlight a really powerful case study, India.
Oh, India is a fascinating example.
Right, because when you look at how heavily India relies on digital infrastructure today, the stakes become intensely clear.
Absolutely.
You have a nation of 1.4 billion people. They have a massive railway network that doesn't just move commuters. It coordinates the movement of food, military assets, and the coal that powers the electrical grid.
And their financial system is totally digital now, too.
Exactly, the Unified Payments Interface, or UPI. It handles billions of digital financial transactions every single month.
They are deeply structurally dependent on these interconnected digital systems for the basic survival of the state.
So if a hack targets the signaling system of the Indian railways,
Right.
it isn't just train stopping, it is an immediate supply chain collapse.
Right.
It is coal not reaching the power plants, which leads to grid failure. If the UPI financial system goes down, the economy just halts in seconds.
Right.
People cannot buy food.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah. For a nation like India, a major cyber operation hitting any of those sectors is not just a bad day for the IT department. It is an immediate, catastrophic national security crisis.
And in that exact moment of cascading crisis, a nation doesn't just need cybersecurity engineers frantically trying to patch the vulnerabilities and stop the bleeding.
Who else do they need?
They need diplomats who understand cyber norms. They need intelligence analysts who can pierce through the false flags, trace the crypto payments, and solve the attribution puzzle. And, critically, they need international lawyers in the room.
Because if you just have raw cyber power, but no legal clarity on when and how you can actually use it, you invite chaotic, terrifying escalation.
Exactly. A simple misunderstanding could lead to a physical war.
But cyber power combined with legal clarity, that becomes a profound instrument of deterrence.
It really does.
You could look at an adversary and publicly state, if you cross this specific digital line and cause this level of physical destruction, we are legally justified under international law to respond with kinetic military force.
That clarity prevents the conflict. Which brings us back to the ultimate question we started with. When does a hack become an act of war?
What we've discovered in this deep dive is that the battlefield of the future might not begin with a flash of light, the roar of a jet, and a missile strike.
No, it probably won't.
It might begin silently, with a string of malicious code executing in the dark. But the fundamental principle of our world still holds true. State power, no matter how technologically advanced, does not exist outside the law.
And while it's vital to remember that not every hack is an act of war, it's equally vital to realize that lawyers are now an essential frontline component of the cyber battlefield.
Right.
In the chaotic aftermath of a major digital strike, they are the ones who must classify the wreckage.
They have to define what just happened.
Exactly. They must determine, was this merely a wrongful act of espionage? Was it an unlawful use of force? Or was the physical destruction so severe that it constitutes an armed attack, justifying the terrible machinery of war?
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over based on the uncertainty our sources warned about.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine being in the situation we described at the very beginning of this deep dive. You are a government leader. You are standing in a command center, watching your country's critical infrastructure fail in real time.
A total nightmare.
The hospitals are going dark. The grid is collapsing. The pressure from your citizens to act is unimaginably high. A cyber attack moves in the split-second speed of light. But legal classification, gathering the signal's intelligence, proving attribution beyond a shadow of a doubt, debating the scale and effects under the UN Charter. That is an incredibly slow, deliberate process.
It takes time.
How do nations balance the split-second speed of a digital collapse with the slow, methodical pace of international law? Can you really afford to wait for the lawyers to finish their analysis while your citizens die in the dark?
That is the ultimate dilemma.
Or do you retaliate before the law has given you a solid answer and risk starting a global physical war over what might just be a digital false flag? The next time your power flickers, just remember, the most dangerous weapons on earth no longer make a sound.
Subscribe to Ambat Legal Insight and stay legally informed with clear, practical, and reliable breakdowns of the law. Follow our channel and activate the bell icon so you never miss important legal updates, case analyses, and expert insights that matter to every citizen. Support our mission of spreading legal awareness by liking, sharing, and commenting, because your one action can help thousands become more legally empowered. Join the ALI community today across YouTube, podcast, and social platforms and take a step toward understanding your rights, your laws, and your justice. Ambat Legal Insight, because law is for everyone.